right, this is Andrew Ceglio, and I'm with Empower Positive Radio and the TOtLE Positive News Team, and I am here at the 13th Annual Posi Music Awards here in Tampa, Florida, at the beautiful Marriott Hotel, and I'm sitting here with Mr. Sky Nelson Isaacs. Sky, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. It's great to meet you, Andrew.
Oh, man, so great to meet you. We've just been chatting a little bit about, what Sky's bringing to the table here at PosiFest and what he contributes to the world. And so, Sky, you're a scientist, an author, a musician. Sounds like a little bit of a philosopher. Could you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to walk this these multiple paths?
Sure. I would say underneath all that, my real way of living or purpose for living is self-discovery, trying to understand who I am and why I'm here and what consciousness is, what it means to be alive, and what are all the patterns that guide my choices, and what's possible once I start unraveling some of those patterns and creating my own patterns, like intentional patterns.
Yeah.
So that's always been really interesting to me. And music is a way of expressing that. Music is a way of living, embodying whatever those ideas are that come. Mm-hmm. Because when I play music, it's like I have to be really present and I have to show up and I have to engage with people and connect.
Yeah.
And then I'm a physicist also. I went to college and studied physics at UC Berkeley and then at San Francisco State for my master's. And I did a master's thesis in string theory. And now I do research on how synchronicity can be described using actual quantum physics. And people talk a lot about that, but most of them are not actually doing the science.
Absolutely.
So half of my work is actually doing that science and trying to come up with those theories. And then the other part is writing about it in a book that I've got coming out next year.
Oh man, that's so absolutely incredible. Yeah, and the book that you got coming out next year is called Living in Flow, correct? And there's another element to it, Living in Flow.
The science of synchronicity and how your choices shape your world.
That's so wonderful. And we were just talking a little bit, before about, one of the amazing things is, when we talk about empowerment and the positive scene, that there is very little scientific information out there that's backing it up, and you're out here kind of, really employing that method and stuff like that. Have you personally found it, have you found any challenges at all from the scientific community to accept some of the practices and things that you've discovered at all?
Absolutely. There's a reason why we have the community of scientists that are gatekeepers. The whole field is like a process that makes sure that what comes into our consciousness as science, because it has the full weight of scientific research behind it, we want to make sure that it's accepted by a community of like-minded people.
Absolutely.
And so I see that process of gaining that acceptance as the refinement process of my own work and my own inner experience too. So until I figure that the theory will become more widely known when it becomes better.
Exactly right. Exactly.
And I've got a lot of people in my corner right now that have been helping me refine what I'm doing, and but it's not. I don't have it all put together yet in a way that enough people really believe and can follow it. And so that's my challenge. And I don't see that as a fault of the scientific community. It's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
That's my job to do that work, and I find that really inspiring and engaging as much as it is difficult.
For sure, right? Well, it's like this continuation of trying to crack that human code. How do all of these elements fit together?
Yeah.
There really is no separation. When we talk about things that are metaphysical, psychosomatic, all this stuff. They boil down to choices and our physiology and all these amazing things. And so it's just amazing the work that you're doing.
Yeah, and I believe that what the work says to me is that the world is responsive to us. We live in a responsive cosmos.
Yeah.
And so when and somebody was just saying it earlier, that the world doesn't respond to what we want, but to who we are. Mm-hmm. And so if the world isn't responding to me in the way that I want yet, then I need to dig deeper into understanding who am I bringing? Who is this person that is currently, in my personality right now, and what can I do to unlayer some of the things that might be on top of my core personality, so that the light from each of us can shine through.
For sure. Well, and I imagine that one of those challenges does include that kind of self-perception. We view ourselves a certain way, and we feel that we're putting ourselves out a certain way. But like you said, if we're not receiving a result, or the universe or the world is not kind of catching us in that way, it is about digging deeper and seeing really what it is about the perception of our own individuality and things like that. And
I see the world really as a reflection of ourselves, and so that takes away any of the victimness.
Yeah.
It's
for
just
sure.
a reflection.
It absolutely is. It's what we got on the inside is an absolute reflection there. Well, and so we're going to get into a little bit of a song here, that you're going to play for us. But I wanted to ask you because I know for me personally, my own personal life, music played a huge part in my own individual growth, not just in my social behavior, but also just in the way that I received information and perceived the world as a positive force. Are you personally finding any major breakthroughs that comes with music in terms of what you're putting forth with living in the flow and these concepts?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
I think that my core challenge maybe in this life is around this part of my body, the throat chakra.
Yeah.
The clearing out the blocked energy in my throat, which was, I don't mean that in some woo-woo abstract way.
No, for sure.
I mean that I think in our culture we have the same issue of not speaking up.
Yeah.
And so I wrote an article in a magazine about a year ago after being in the grocery store, and it was just after the election, and I saw a front page of one of the National Enquirer that had some really just hate-filled pictures and speech, and I couldn't continue with my day without saying something.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of speaking up that I think, for me musically, it's clearing out that space. And my voice has really evolved in the past couple years in that same vein of opening up to what is the true authentic sound of what I sound like or what each of us might have to say.
Yeah.
And so and just to follow up that story, I was with my daughter who's 8, and we waited and we talked to the manager of the store, and we had a real connection with him. He was a great person, and he said, if that's the way you feel, I'll take them off the shelf, and he pulled them all down.
See, that's amazing.
And so that's the kind of change that can happen when we open up that part of our, that throat, and allow our authentic words to come through in whatever form.
Yeah, and it does feel a little foreign at first, right? When we're trying to tap into, our voice, we come from this naturally because we're so unused to it, coming from a very emotional driven response.
Right.
But if we learn to kind of come at this place where opening up and having that conversation, like you said, with that store manager, I'm sure he would have been less receptive to you if you would have started barking at him and putting him down
That's
with
really
the hate
important.
that you saw in that
Exactly.
magazine,
Am I bringing the same hate that I'm trying to get rid of?
Exactly. So it's about counteracting that
Yeah.
and seeing it's those little movements there. That's really incredible, man.
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna do a song for us. What's it called? And give us a little bit, man.
This is called "Don't Let This Day Pass You By."
Beautiful. I love
It
it.
says everything. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you by. Don't let this day pass you by. When I was young, I looked up at the tree I would become, and saw so many leaves upon those limbs. And it was effortless to reach inside infinity. With so much time, there's no need to begin. Singing tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Singing tomorrow, don't lead me away. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you by. Ha ha. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you by. Don't let this day pass you by. It may seem like there's a lot of time to get it done. There's always something urgent in the way. Days will congregate in weeks, then in months. Soon you'll find your chances walked away. Singing tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Singing tomorrow, don't leave me away. Hey, don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you by. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you by. Don't let this day pass you by. You are here to make a difference, but you gotta start today. Ooh. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you by. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you by. Sing with me. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you by. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you. Don't let this day pass you by. Don't let this day pass you by. Don't let this day pass you by.
Yeah. Sky Nelson Isaacs, ladies and gentlemen. Man, that was awesome, man. I really
Thank
dug
you.
that. You know, it's interesting. It just the words and the emotion that it elicited. It kind of reminded me of a much deeper and cathartic version of "Feeling Groovy" by Simon and Garfunkel. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like it
that's a
had
great
that
song.
vibe that just brings you up. You know. Wow. Sky Nelson Isaacs, ladies and gentlemen. Next year, he's got a book coming out, Living in Flow. Check it out. His CD, The World Ocean. Can we find this on iTunes or anywhere we can purchase
iTunes
this?
and my website, both places.
Please,
Yeah.
and lay that website on us for us, if you
Great,
don't
it's
mind.
www.skynelson.com.
Right.
And this album, The World Ocean, was inspired by a lot of dreams. Some of the songs came out of dreams and turned into real songs. And it's about the changes we're going through, both out in the world with climate change and the rising oceans and the power of the ocean, and also inside ourselves, the conscious and subconscious of our own inner ocean that's rising.
Wow, man, that's really, really, really incredible stuff. Well, Scott,
Great.
thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you so
time
much.
and sharing.
Really appreciate it.
And we'll be seeing him at PosiFest this weekend. He's going to be performing tonight at the Pajama Jam, also tomorrow at the PosiPalooza. And so stay tuned on Empower Positive Radio. I'm Andrew Ceglio. Make sure you check us out on Twitch and Instagram as well for that live feed. We're going to be doing lots of exciting stuff. And thank you so much. And we'll see you real soon.
All right.
Man, awesome, brother. Dude, that was really, really, really inspiring.